Hey girl gang, it's Dr. Joy here and you are watching Delivering Joy MD-TV. Welcome to Well Woman Wednesday, y'all. And today is going to be a treat because I'm having tea with my girl Jazzy Johnson and we're going to be talking about relationships. So make sure you keep watching. All right, we're back and I am so pleased to have Jazzy Johnson, makeup artist extraordinaire, with me today. But one thing I've been noticing, Jazzy, is that you have been posting some real relationship wisdom these days on your socials. And so I wanted to bring you in so we could have a little tea and talk a little bit about some of this relationship stuff, because I think it could really benefit a lot of people out there, particularly women. Thank you so much for coming and having tea with me today.
Thank you for having me.
All right. So I thought that this would be such a great conversation because you made this post about how oftentimes women go through so much in relationships, and you've been kind of giving people hints and telling them things. So how did you come by all this relationship wisdom?
Well, I've been in several toxic relationships. I've been in several toxic relationships, and if you keep failing at something, you kind of have to step back and you know, do your research. You have to kind of figure out where am I going wrong? Where am I going wrong? And you have to figure out what actually makes a relationship work, what makes a relationship healthy. So that's pretty much where the wisdom comes from. I kept failing, kept dating, and I've been married several times. I'm only 37. And I say several times, but it's 3 times, which is a lot for my age. So being in toxic relationships is what made me, the last one being the worst of them all, that's what made me kind of step back and say, okay, I need to take a look at me and figure out what's going on.
Wow. So tell me a little bit about what you learned through that process, because, you know, when we kind of take a step back and start looking at what's up with me, that I keep seeming to wind up in the same place, like, I know that's tough. So how did that help you? Like, what did you learn from all that?
I learned that that I had not yet taken any time to just get to know me. I knew how to love my kids. I knew how to love my man. But I had not yet learned how to love me. I had my first son at the age of 14, so I've been in relationships since a child. And as an adult, I had not yet been single. So I didn't know who I was. You know, I didn't know what I wanted. I didn't know anything about boundaries, standards, lack self-love. And I kind of had to, that's what I learned. I learned the importance of self-love.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's deep. So tell me a little bit about what that means to you, like self-love, because I see so many people, and you know, as a gynecologist, I deal with women all day, and I often will see people going through so much, and it's like, girl, like, wake up. You are the one that deserves, you know, you're the prize. You deserve to be treasured and cherished. So how did that feel to you when you finally were like, oh wow, like that moment when you're like, oh, this is where I'm really going wrong?
Well, I almost lost everything with this last relationship, this last divorce process. I almost lost everything I've ever worked so hard for.
Wow.
And you know, the self-love is protecting yourself. It's protecting yourself, you know, not just physically, but you know, mentally, spiritually, and emotionally as well. That's what it's like holistic well-being, pretty much. You have to protect yourself, and you have to love yourself enough to know when to walk away from certain situations, certain environments, certain people. So that's what self-love is. Joy, I've been through a lot, and I had a moment. I don't know if I could dig into all
You
of that.
can go into everything, because that's what people need to hear. They need to hear the real talk.
Okay.
Because we can sugarcoat it and tiptoe around it, but I think we need to tell the testimony. We need to talk about our mess has to become a message, you know.
So I had actually had a moment when we were in the process of divorcing, and I ended up getting locked up. Had to do 72 hours. Almost caught a battery charge. It didn't stick, but I almost caught a battery charge. And um, mind you, I have a whole career. I don't just do makeup. I'm actually a mental health nurse. So that woke me up. It woke me up because now I'm like, okay, I'm about to lose everything about this man, like over this man. Every single thing I worked so hard
What?
for.
Girl, you out here throwing hands, Jazzy.
They'll take you there. I mean, they'll take you
They will
there.
take you to a place
But
where
that
you're out
night
of
I didn't
character.
throw any hands though. Just to
Okay.
be clear, that's why I didn't stick. I ain't do nothing that time.
Okay, good. She was like, but I will now.
I
I will
didn't
be with
do
you.
nothing that time, but we had a very, very toxic relationship, and that's why I wanted out. We did have plenty fights. We had plenty of fights. That particular night, we did not have a physical fight, but sitting in jail, that made me realize, okay, I really, what
Like, I
are
don't
you
belong
doing?
here.
Yeah,
Like,
what are you
I don't
doing?
even belong here. What's going on?
Right. So that's
Yeah.
what woke me up. That
Yeah.
really woke me up.
With all of the talent, all of the beauty, and all of the things that you do, it's kind of like sometimes these toxic relationships take us all the way out of our character, all
Right.
the way out of who God called us to be, and that's when you really know, like, this is not where I need to be. Like, I'm
Right.
doing stuff I would never imagine myself doing.
Right.
Yeah, I've been there too.
Yeah.
I tell people all the time, don't let the letters behind my name fool you. I have been through a lot,
Right.
and I was married once, and it took me a long time because I've been in school since Jesus was a baby, so I didn't even get to a point where I was really working and doing everything until I was over 30. So I
Okay.
kind of, that kept me from messing up a whole lot, but when I messed up big when it came to relationships. And
Right.
so, we get ourselves into these situations and we kind of just keep going down the path and not recognizing some of the warning signs.
Right.
So, like, what were some of the warning signs for you that this is a totally toxic relationship? I need to, this is not going to work.
First of all, it was the fighting, like the physical altercations. I realized, later in the relationship that I had strayed very far from God. Like I wasn't praying, I wasn't, in my Bible, like I was before getting into this relationship. And I think it was one of D. Mosley's events. D. Mosley and Miss Anita, they had an event called Bloom. It was called Bloom, sis. And I hadn't been to church or anything in a very, very long time. But when I went to this event, it was better than church. It was like something took over me, and I was crying uncontrollably, like the spirit really touched me. So after that, I say I got to get back in my Bible. Like I got to get back right. I got to get back, close with God. Like I miss it. Like I miss church. After that, it's like when I got back into my Bible, it's kind of like I had stepped outside of my relationship. I started, taking a closer look at my relationship and all that was wrong with it. Like, this ain't right. Like, I know this ain't what God had for me. God, I know you lying, because this ain't it. So, it's just a lot of things that started to make me lose respect for him. I started to get disgusted with myself for the things that I was putting up with. And as I got into my Bible the more and more I got into my Bible, it's like the more I wanted to be away from him.
Wow. So it's actually Holy Spirit leading you
Right.
away from that toxic
Right.
environment.
Right.
Because we know that what God has for us is only good.
Right.
Like, he's
Exactly.
never going to give us something that's terrible for us. And you made a statement on one of your posts that really got me thinking about us having this conversation. And that was like, you don't get a special badge for staying in a toxic relationship, like being a ride or die, or like going through horrible
Right.
things with people. And I think that for me was what I was thinking. I need to tough it out. I need to hold on. I need to be, you know, in this relationship through thick and thin. When
Right.
really, you know, every problem we had in the marriage, and I'm not gonna act like I'm a perfect person, but it came from him. It was his stuff. It was things he had done. He was in trouble with the law. He was doing all, you know, and so it was like, none of this stuff belongs to me. None of this baggage really belongs to me, you know, other than, I don't know, I have a smart mouth and maybe can have attitude sometimes. But the big things that were wrong in our marriage
Right.
really came from him. And I'm like, what am I doing? I'm sitting here going through all of this, court cases and doing all these things. I'm like, ain't none of this my stuff. Like, let me
Right.
hand this back to him and move on.
Right.
So, you know, I love that you said that, because so many people are suffering needlessly for somebody who really doesn't respect them or care for them in the first place.
Right. Right. And I think society kind of taught us that growing up. Like you know, that's your husband. You ride it out. You know, be ride or die, and you know, just stick it out. You know, things will change and things like that. But a lot of times they don't change. Like these people don't change, and that's a toxic trait that I had as well, thinking that I can change somebody. Like you can't change anybody. That's a toxic trait in itself, to think that you can't change anybody. They can only change for themselves, you know.
That's so true. That is so true. And so in this last relationship, we were kind of talking about things were so toxic and it just took you to a breaking point. How did you get the courage to walk away and just say, hey, look, you know, you go your way, I go mine? Because I know lots of women struggle with that, like how to be able to say, look, this is over. I know I struggled personally getting my divorce with embarrassment. Like,
Yeah.
dog, you only been married 2.5 years, you know, so it made me feel like I failed at it, or was worried about what people might say, you know, that kind of thing. So how did you get that courage to be like, hey, I'm up out?
I had to, it took a lot of prayer. It definitely took a lot of prayer. And I was, at the time, I was doing my research on toxicity and toxic men and narcissism. I didn't understand what narcissism was, and what all it entailed. It was kind of like how we used to throw bipolar around, but we really didn't know what it entailed until we started actually seeing our relatives and stuff that were actually diagnosed with bipolar. I think that we do the same with narcissism. People throw that word around, but they really don't understand it's a real personality disorder, like it's a real mental illness. So I started doing my research on that. It's a guy named Lee Hammock on YouTube. He is a diagnosed narcissist, but he teaches women and men about the sickness, about the illness. Yeah. And he's in therapy and everything, and you know, him and his wife are still together, and they're prospering in a relationship because he went and got the help. But I had to watch those videos every day to remind me of why I decided to leave in the first place. Because it's easy to, because you're so used to the toxicity and the ups and downs, it's so easy to get sucked back in. And it took a lot of prayer, like I said, to, okay, I'm going through with this divorce. This is my final decision. I'm going through with it, and that's going to be that.
And you said a whole word right there. Some of us are so used to the ups and downs, the drama, and just the craziness of relationships that we think that it's not good if it's not hurting us or causing us stress.
Right.
Like we kind of addicted to the crazy.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what it was. It feels like you're in a trance, like you're addicted to it. Peace feels like boredom.
Oh, I love that.
Peace feels like boredom. Because you're so used to the drama. So, you know, I think we split up for maybe like 9 months at one time, and I ended up going back because I was bored.
Wow.
I was truly bored. Like, you know, you meet a good man, you meet somebody that's kind and easygoing, but you don't even recognize, you know, that's your piece. I fumbled a couple of good dudes because I didn't realize, okay, this is peace right here. I was so used to the drama and the toxicity.
Wow. So I think that's a real key point. How do you talk to your girlfriends, your sisters, women that you mentor about how to just avoid that? Because that's what I see a lot of people getting stuck in. They just kind of go back and forth and back and forth. And it feels like they like the high of when it's great. And then some of them even may be addicted to the low times too, and the fights and the arguments. And so how do you kind of counsel them like, hey girl, stay away from that?
I'm big on self love. You have to love yourself first, babe. You have to love yourself first. If it's hurting you, if this pattern is continuing, that person is not for you. So I'm very, very, very big on self love. Try to let them know that they're enough. Get your independence back and focus on you, so that you can separate yourself from this person.
Absolutely. I totally agree. And I think that's one of the things that, I don't know, because I hate to see people going down a path that is going to end poorly. But like you said, it all starts with how you feel about yourself.
Right.
And so sometimes it's very difficult to counsel young women, even older women, about what's happening in their relationship. And the thing is that we don't realize we carry these things in our bodies. We carry these things in our bodies. I always tell the story about this one patient I had years ago who was coming in for chronic pelvic pain. Like she would say, everything down here hurts, my lower stomach hurts. And I'm telling you, I went all out looking for what was the cause of her pain. We had CT scans and ultrasounds, and even put a camera in the belly and looked, took her to surgery, looked around, couldn't find a thing. And so one day we sat down and I just said, girl, what's going on at home? And she was like, oh, my husband is stepping out on me. I know he is. I've seen the woman. I know what's going on. And she just kind of broke down and cried. And I said, I don't think we need to do any major surgery on you. I think you might need to do some major work on your relationship. And I saw her 6 months later for a follow-up visit, pain-free.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh my God. And she said, well, I divorced. I got a divorce. And I said, well, it's not that we promote divorce, but we do promote healthy relationships. And if your relationship is not healthy, that's not good for you to sit in that.
Right.
And because eventually our issues get into our tissues. We talk about somatic disorders, which means like your feelings are driving how your body literally feels.
Right.
Because your brain feels bad, your body is starting to feel bad. And those different stressors are kind of manifesting in your body. And so when I go and look for all these reasons for people to be in pain and stuff and I can't find something, now I say, okay, what's going on inside your heart and your mind? Because sometimes that pain will manifest just from the painful emotions you have.
Right. Stress will kill you. It will literally, it will kill you. I've been there. I've started having heart palpitations, and had to go get checked out because I was that stressed out. At one point, I had very, very bad breakouts. It started to show up in my skin. My hair was falling out because I was stressed out about this man. That's actually how I started my makeup.
Really?
My makeup business. Yeah, I had to cover up the bumps and the blemishes and stuff. So he had me so stressed out that I literally, to me, I was so ugly. I was so ugly, and I had to cover that up with makeup. And once I started doing that, I would post my pictures and stuff to Facebook, and friends started reaching out. Can you do my makeup? And that's how my makeup business started.
Wow. And so it's called Cherished Beauty, is that right?
Beauty,
okay. Yeah, I love that name. So how did you come up with that concept?
It was about love. It was about self-love.
About self-love.
Yeah,
I love
it was
that.
about self-love.
I think that's so, when people even hear that or when they see that, they're like, oh, I can be cherished. I can be beautiful.
Right.
And I think that the thing about a cherished beauty is that it actually comes from inside out.
Right.
And that self-love is on a whole nother level.
Right.
So I think that's amazing. What are some common mistakes you see friends or just people in general making when it comes to relationships?
I think we're jumping in them too fast. We're not really getting to know people. We don't ask questions. We don't we don't yet have established boundaries. You have to finish your relationship with yourself first before you go into a relationship with anybody else. You have to love yourself first before you try to love anybody else. And I think the foundation, because we lack those things, the foundation from the start of these relationships they're already messed up. They're already doomed from the beginning because, the foundation is messed up.
Wow. And I think when you get into a relationship like that, the only way to turn it around is if both people decide that they're going to make the effort to be, healthy in their relationships and to be healthy in their relationship with themselves.
Right.
First, to be
Right.
like, okay, I understand what I need. I understand, what my boundaries are. And I love that you touched on boundaries because a lot of people don't have that. How did you develop your boundaries?
Again, dealing with this last relationship, I learned that was something I had to have. Not even just with my romantic relationships, even friendships. Friendships, and even with your kids, you have to have boundaries. You have to know when to say no. You have to, be able to have your standards in place, and you got to stick to them.
That's absolutely. So, like, give me one firm boundary that you have set, like, in terms of relationships that give people an idea. Because I have lots of patients who, when I talk about boundaries, they're like, I'm not really sure what that means. Like, so what's one firm boundary? Like, hey, I don't ever cross this. I don't let anybody cross it.
Just a respect. You have to talk to me like you got some sense, like you got some common sense. Talk to me like an adult. I don't want to be screaming, you know what I'm saying? I don't want to be going back and forth, in an angry manner. We have to communicate like we're adults.
And so I see a lot of times people get way, just out of control with what they're saying, how they're saying it. And then, because see, here's the thing, if people will elevate their voice, if they will invade your space, they will put hands on you.
Exactly. Exactly.
Eventually.
Right.
So verbal abuse is just, to me, is just a stepping stone to physical abuse. Yeah.
And that was a trigger for me. That's why I'm big on that. That was a trigger for me. You can't come in my face screaming and doing all this. I'm automatically put hands up. That's a trigger for me, and that's why I'm big. You got to know how to talk to me.
Yeah.
And you got to respect me.
Yeah, and that's how it should be, right? We should all respect each other. I think we should be able to have adult conversations, and even when we're not happy about something, we ought to be able to still communicate, use our words, and be able to talk about what's going on, what our expectations were, why, whatever that person did crossed the boundary for us, and how we get back to, a neutral ground, or how do we just decide not to deal with each other.
Right.
And like you said, that's in friendships, romantic relationships, work relationships, everywhere. Those boundaries are so important. There's a really good book I read called Boundaries for Christians by Dr. Henry Cloud that just gave you, because I think sometimes we think if we are, followers of Christ, or we are God lovers, that we have to just take anything anybody says, which is absolutely not true, or that we have to be long suffering and bear with people through all kinds of stuff. Yeah, we should forgive people, but forgiveness does not mean reconciliation.
Right.
It doesn't.
That's right.
So sometimes we need to forgive people and move on for ourselves, but that doesn't mean that we need to get back in bed with them, or in relationships, or back in marriage, or even, in friendships with them.
Correct. Correct.
So I really love the conversation that we're having, because I think it's so important. Like, when you learn these things from your last relationships, how does that guide your decisions now? Like, you talked about, man, I might have fumbled a few good guys. Like, so how do you now look at or think about dating or romantic relationships? Or are you even entertaining that?
I am dating. I'm on the scene. I'm looking. I'm on the scene.
She's single, y'all.
But it's no longer about my type. It's about my kind. I don't care what you look like. Well, I care about what you look like. You know, you gotta look. You
I was
gotta
about to say,
be
you gotta have some
decent.
teeth,
You gotta
right?
be decent, right? You gotta be decent, but it's that I used to have a type. You know, he gotta be husky. He gotta be bearded. He gotta be smith. You know, I'm more concerned about how this person is gonna treat me. So when I jump into anything, I'm asking those questions. I'm actually dating. You know what I'm saying? Used to be, we didn't date. We didn't date. We straight to, we might go watch a little movie or we might Netflix and chill and then, you know what I'm saying, you got a
Next thing you
boyfriend
know,
the
we
next
moving
day.
in. Like,
Yeah,
yeah.
right. So just taking my time and actually dating people to get to actually know them is how I'm approaching
I
this
love
whole dating
that.
thing this time.
So when you're dating now and you decide that somebody is worthy of your time to go out on a date with them, what are some of the conversations that you're having now versus when it used to just be Netflix and chill and let's be
Move in.
together and move in, whatever. So what do those conversations look like now for you?
At first, like one of the first things I'm bringing up is that Bible. What's your spirituality? What's that looking like?
Mm-hmm.
That's the first thing I'm bringing up because what's leading you? Like, what's leading you in life? Like, how do I know that you're gonna be able to run this household like you need to as a man of God? Like, because sometimes we're just floating through life. Like, we don't have no spiritual guidance. And that's what I feel like we were doing in my last relationship. Like, we had no spiritual guidance. It's like we were just floating through life. And so I'm big on that. That's, I'm digging deeper now. Like, I need to know, how you I'm even watching how, when we go to a restaurant, how you approaching women, like the waitress, how you talking to the staff. You know what I'm saying? I'm, taking in all of this because, the way you treat them is eventually how you gonna treat me. You know what I'm saying? When things ain't all peaches and cream in our relationship. So I'm watching everything. I'm just observing everything. That's why I think dating is important. I require you're going to have to take me out and we're going to have to sit and talk and we're going to have to really get to know each other.
And I totally agree with that. I guess I'm probably much older than you, but in my day, that's what we did. We met out somewhere, or someone would pick you up and you go out or whatever. And that kind of let you see how people behaved in public. Like, how do they treat other people? Do they have long-lasting friendships? It kind of gives you an idea.
Right.
But, I love that you're kind of digging deeper on that and talking to people and going out and getting to know people. And that's the reason why dating existed in the first place.
Right.
For us to be able to get to know persons and then say, okay, is this somebody I really want to spend more time with or not? Because you can date really nice people that you don't have any intention of
Right.
ever being with for whatever reason. But that dating is so important. And especially my young ladies that I see, I'm always encouraging them, go hang out in public with these people, see who they roll with, see who they're hanging out with, because that makes a difference. That can kind of give you a lot of information about who this person really is.
Right.
Because everybody can send their representative,
Exactly.
and they'll be fine for a few months, and then once they get comfortable, they start letting that mask slip off, and you see who they really are behind there.
That's the term I use too. I say that mask gonna slip every time.
It's gonna slip. It's gonna slip when they're stressed. It's gonna slip when they're angry. It's gonna slip when money's not coming in the way they used to it. Like, my ex-husband was used to having a lot of money, and boy, when his business failed, boy, he turned to a whole nother person that I had never seen before. So I think that we have to be able to spend that time. And that was another mistake I made in my last relationship, is that we always lived in different states. So we would, I'd be running up there, he'd be running down here, so I never really saw who he was every day.
Okay.
And so when we started spending more time together and being in the same house more often, I was like, whoa, who is this?
Yeah.
So I think that opportunity to be together and get to know each other really well is so very important. Right. What are your strategies when it comes to how close can we get, and how close can we get this soon? Like, I see a lot of people on the Netflix and chill type thing. And then before you know it, they have, they're intimate with this person. They're, starting a whole life together, or at least they think they are. And then it's like, oh, I don't even like this person. So then you end up like having soul ties or having feelings for people that you really don't even necessarily like.
Right.
Yeah.
You don't even know them really.
Yeah.
I think you just have to. You have to see a person in all their seasons, like you were just saying about, they're angry, mad. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of times people just show you the mad side. They don't show all of their emotions. So I feel like you just have to kind of like go through the seasons with them. And if the chemistry, if y'all could still hang on, if y'all still good, after those seasons have passed where they done went through some things, you done went through a couple of things, and, y'all still rocking, then, yeah, I mean, you can get close, based on that, you know.
And I think it's, like you said, the dating part is very, very important. It has to be intentional, like really taking the time to get to know this individual. Having lots of conversations, more talk kind of helps you kind of get an idea of what their thoughts are, what they're interested in. Like, is this somebody you even really want to spend a whole lot of your time? I think one of the biggest tragedies, and maybe you can speak to this, but from where I sit, one of the biggest tragedies is when I see two people having to co-parent who know nothing about each other, who really don't like each other at all.
Right.
Because I always think about this baby is it's gonna be tough for them to even get on one accord to just raise their child together.
Right.
And that's, to me, is the saddest thing when I see that.
It is. I just thank God I didn't have any babies with my last ex. And that's all I'm gonna say about that.
That there's kind of this narrative that we can raise our kids on our own, and we don't need a man, and we're independent, and we've been doing it for a long time. But I've been seeing a lot on socials about the soft woman season, where we're kind of going back to this. We want to be treated like queens. We want to be romanced. We want to have these opportunities that we haven't had in the past. Want to be able to feel like we're taken care of, like we're cherished and loved. And for me, that's the season I'm in right now. Like, my favorite part about about my relationship now is that I have somebody that really does like cherish me, who is always looking out for me, who's always trying to take a load off my shoulders. And as a matter of fact, every day when I get home from work, the first thing he does is take my work bag off my shoulders. And so, like, for me, it's kind of a metaphor for him just taking weight off of me. Because, the work that we do, particularly in healthcare, it's hard. Like, it's heavy. Right? And so sometimes we're carrying burdens that we don't even realize. And so when I get home and he just lifts that heavy bag off my shoulders, I'm like, you can take a breath, and you can feel like I'm not responsible for carrying everything by myself. And what you said is so important about his relationship with God, or their relationship with God, because they're supposed to be the priest of the home.
Right. They're supposed to love you the way that God loved the church. So, they gotta have some guidance. Yeah.
And to have somebody that literally tells you every day, like, you're beautiful, I love you so much, or is there anything I can do to help you, or anything you don't like about yourself, I think is beautiful. It makes you you. Like, those kind of things will help. I don't know, it's just a whole different glow.
Oh yeah.
It's a whole different glow. And so that's what I wish for all women everywhere. If that's your thing, if you're looking for a man, or if you have an alternative lifestyle, whatever, I just hope that every woman finds somebody who loves them unconditionally, and who really wants to be with them and there for them, because it's important. It's a really important thing. So we're gonna help Jazzy find love out here. So if you're watching, she's single, guys. She's single, so don't be afraid to respectfully slide in the DMs.
Respectfully.
Respectfully. Very respectfully and carefully. Well, I am so glad we got to have this conversation, Miss
Thank you for having me.
Jazzy.
I had fun.
I did too. I love the content that you're posting. I feel like it's so empowering for women, and people are looking at this and thinking about it. I know you always keep me thinking about, oh, wow, like that was good right there. So do you think you have a calling to ministry?
I've been told by several people that I do. So whatever God has in store, I'm with it.
Because you be delivering whole words
Yeah, whatever He has in
on your
store.
social media. I'm like, oh, this is real good. It's real good. We save this and bookmark that.
Thank
So
you.
it has been fantastic to watch you just pour into so many people on a daily basis. And I really admire what you're doing and helping other people kind of learn about that. And just, I want you to continue doing it and to find exactly what you want, the things that meet your standards, right? And so you can have the relationship that you deserve, because I believe you deserve a great one.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, girl gang, you heard it here first. We're talking about healthy relationships. Make sure that you tune in and follow Jazzy Johnson on social media. And you can catch us either on BTV or on YouTube with this episode. We'll catch you next time, girl gang. Peace.